Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about a very big storm that is about to be ongoing in the eastern United States, and then also a long-range snowfall chance for the eastern United States. We're going to be talking about all these things within this video. Alright, now before we get into things, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think there will be any snowstorms for the eastern United States in the month of November? Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and first things first, we're taking a look here at our simulated radar, and as you can see, this storm is already ongoing. A 995 millibar low pressure center. Again, I've been talking about this one for a little while, and I've talked about how that's a pretty strong low pressure system for being over land for so long. Obviously, low pressure systems develop much easier over water, so for it to be over land all this time and still be a 995 and lowering is pretty impressive. Now, by the time I reach Thursday afternoon, you can see this one drops to a 992, so it's actually gaining intensity. Now, the interesting thing with this storm system we're going to be going through is that there is a secondary low that is developing offshore, as you can see. 1004 millibar low pressure center offshore of Georgia and South Carolina. Potentially nor'easter type impacts. Usually they're a little less strong when there is that, primary low that is all over land to the west of these nor'easter type storms. Usually you're looking for those more individual nor'easters with no other lows around it to be the very strongest. Now, we do have some snowfall going on for Canada up there north of Washington and north of Idaho. And that obviously is pretty heavy at this point. But let's take a zoomed in look real quick over the eastern United States at this storm. Again, a 992 millibar low pressure center. You can see there is some heavier rainfall going on, especially to the west and to the north of this low pressure system. We do have a 999 millibar low pressure system over Georgia. That is the one that's kind of offshore, kind of onshore type deal. We do have some heavier precipitation, probably the heaviest precipitation around that area of low pressure for areas like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida at this point. And we're going to see that this storm is going to feature this extended low kind of near the coastline as we move forward as well. Because by the time we reach about Friday morning time frame, maybe about 11 a.m., I would say, you can see there is some precipitation going on for a lot of the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, areas like that. But again, the heaviest is ongoing for West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia as well, as there is that secondary low near northeastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. Now, by time we are moving on, we're going to see this storm really move up into the New England area and become a pure nor'easter before it moves up into Canada. Then we're going to take a look at the total rainfall, and then we're going to explore the possibilities for some snow type events with this Arctic blast that, as we all know, if you've been keeping up with our videos, is on the way. All right, now here we are taking a look, and this is going to be approximately Saturday 2 a.m. time frame. That's going to be October 30th, or 2 days from now, approximately. Well, not approximately, literally 2 days from now. And it does depend when you're watching this video, but we do see the primary low is still over the Ohio Valley. We do have that secondary low, which still maintains that strongest precipitation, which is pretty interesting that the weaker low pressure system has the stronger areas of precipitation. That's just how weather works. You never know, right? We have the northeastern and mid-Atlantic regions of the United States dealing with that heaviest precipitation. I do see one little blue dot over the Catskills there by this frame, which is interesting. I didn't notice that before when I was collecting this frame, so that is pretty interesting. But that quickly comes to an end. I guess if you're at the very tippy tops of the mountains of the Catskills at 2 a.m. on Saturday, you might see a few flakes, but I'm doubting anybody's going to be up there. We can see that by the time we reach that evening, this is going to be approximately 10 or 11 p.m. That's when that primary low really weakens, even though it's still the stronger area of low pressure. It really weakens as far as precipitation is concerned, and this nor'easter really takes over. We see very heavy precipitation for the New England states, and eventually, by the time we reach about the mid-morning hours or late morning hours of Sunday, October 31st, or Halloween, this storm becomes a 999 millibar low pressure center, finally becoming the primary low as the nor'easter as it moves onshore to Maine and eventually up into Canada. So it takes a long time, but it does eventually happen. Now, as we take a look at that total precipitation here for the eastern half of the country, you could see that we have areas in the grays, greens, and blues under an inch of rainfall. So this is where it's just going to be a rainy event, not going to be anything huge. Obviously, some of these things can change a little bit, but for the most part, there will be about 75% of the areas in the eastern United States will be under an inch, or maybe 50% of the areas. Now, we see that areas in the oranges are going to be dealing with 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, which is the other half of the regions. Now, as we move up into the reds, that's where we're at 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. So we can see some pockets of that, but notice they're all due to that secondary low. We see Florida, we see then the mid-Atlantic areas like Maryland, West Virginia, Western Virginia as well, and then areas where that nor'easter finally develops there in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. So that's the three areas that we're eyeballing for the most precipitation. Also, coastal regions of the Carolinas might be around 2 inches as well. So generally, we're going to be dealing with 2 to 5 inches in the very worst of these areas, and it will likely be on the lower end of that scale. But 2 to 3 inches in one storm is actually quite a bit of rainfall. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on and we're going to explore the opportunity for those snowfall events. We're also going to be taking a little bit of an updated look at that Arctic blast and how cold it could get in just a moment. Now, a few days ago, I made a video talking about the very, very slim possibility of a snowstorm for the central United States. And as you can see by this frame, that is that storm on our European model. A couple days ago, our European model was not showing this storm, but it does show it to some extent a very different region, though. That's how it goes when you try to eyeball something that far out. But by 6 a.m. on Monday, November 1st, it's going to feel like we get straight into winter, actually. From Halloween Day to November 1st, we're going to have a huge pattern flip. But we can see some snowfall ongoing for Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, and Colorado. You can physically see that Arctic blast taking place. I mean, look at that Arctic air coming in from Canada. And by the time we reach about Wednesday afternoon, that's November 3rd, you can see that storm that was bringing snowfall for Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, and Colorado has dived down further south. This is why it won't have a snowstorm, according to this model, for the areas like Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, because it's too far south. It's not meeting up with that cold air yet. And what ends up happening is that cold air just pours in behind it, and this low pressure system develops kind of a southeast ridge. It moves up before the trough can fully set in for the eastern United States. Otherwise, we would have a very pure nor'easter with this storm. If the cold air was fully centered over the east, this storm would move right around it, and it would go all the way up the east coast. But now we have kind of an inland storm, and you can see some snowfall for Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia. By the way, take this with a grain of salt. We are 186 hours out, kind of the sketchy zone, if you will. That's what I would like to call it. Here's the temperature anomalies. We have far below normal temperatures by the 4th. This is Thursday afternoon around 2 p.m. Again, November 4th. We see the greens is going to be 10 to 15 degrees below normal, and then those blues within the greens are going to be 15 to 30 degrees below normal. So very, very far below normal. The high temperatures on that day for these areas in those far below normal regions are going to be in the mid 30s to mid 40s. Those areas with the mid 30s would have obviously the best chance at snowfall compared to the mid 40s, where you have practically none. Now, we can see that southeast ridge. We can literally see it because there's 60s and 70s there for the southeast. This is where that trough has not really been able to make it through because of this low riding up the jet stream of this trough that has moved in. And by the time we reach about 8 p.m. here on Thursday, November 4th, you can see some snowfall developing for Ohio, West Virginia, and southwestern Pennsylvania as well. Actually, quite heavy snowfall, but that should be pretty mixed, I would say. But it's mostly these northern areas by the time we're reaching about 6 a.m. on Friday that I feel like have the best chance right now because of the timing especially. Look at that heavy snowfall for northern Pennsylvania, a lot of upstate New York, and then throughout Vermont, New Hampshire. This is a pretty realistic scenario, I would say, for this time of year compared to those areas in Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia that are a little bit later to the snow game usually. So we can see that these areas up here, northern Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, that's not super far-fetched. It does take a lot for that to happen, but it has happened before, and I wouldn't say that's completely out of the possibility for this time of year. Now, those areas for West Virginia, southern Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, I'm guessing if this was to play out, it would be some sort of mixed precipitation, mostly due to the temperatures being in the mid-30s. You would be looking at maybe some flakes setting in, maybe all flakes at times, but the accumulation would be very tough to achieve. I could see some sleet, freezing rain, or even just pure rain taking place in those mid 30s, a very, very cold mixed precipitation. But these areas up north at 6 a.m. on Friday would have a much better shot, not only because it's 6 a.m., but because also you are further north, indicating likely you have colder temperatures in place as well. And by the time we reach about 8 p.m. on Saturday, this one will have moved out. We do have some lake effect snowfall taking place, which could add to the overall snow total if this snowstorm was to take place in the first place, because again, take it with a grain of salt. But here is the total snowfall. This is not accumulation, this is the total snowfall. So again, for Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, southern Pennsylvania, I don't know if that accumulation would be able to happen. I could see the mountainous regions of West Virginia maybe getting some, but yeah, I would doubt accumulation would take place in Kentucky, Ohio, areas like that. But we do see for northern Pennsylvania, areas of upstate New York, and then again the northern New England states, we do have generally in the blues 2 to 6 inches of snowfall possible. The purple 6 to 10, yeah, and then the pink is going to be 10 inches plus. 10 inches plus, I would take that with a grain of salt at this point, but we're going to need to move a lot closer to when this would be happening. But generally, there is the possibility for a larger snowstorm for northern Pennsylvania, New York, and New England, I would say, with this setup if that storm in general does move along that cool down. So it does take a lot to happen. It is further out. My confidence is a bit lower in that than anything I talked about in this video, but our confidence overall is at a 4 out of 6. I would say for that snowstorm it's at a 2 out of 6, and then for the general storm that is almost ongoing right now, I'd be at about a 5 out of 6. So that brings us to an average of 4 out of 6 today. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys how you think November is going to go, and Shadowbane 2009 said I would bank on it being mostly colder with a few warm snaps, but those warm snaps won't last long. I bet first week of November, some places will be getting their first hard freeze up here in the Northeast, and I wouldn't doubt that. You know, it's just going to take this cool down really moving in. We'll have to see how that storm impacts the movement of that Arctic blast, but generally I do agree with what you're saying. For today's Patron Highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our Platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Larry the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, and Patrick Strickland as well. I would also like to thank our Diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Kudalasa, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Cindy Klein, Alan Goodmaben, Bill Dallas, Gary's, John Cooley, Dwight Phelan, Stephen Kernenthal, and Thomas DeBar as well. If you'd like to be a part of this very awesome patron entry of the day, you could do so by joining our very amazing Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comments down below. I would also like to thank our channel members here, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. This one will be located next to the subscribe button down below if you are interested in joining. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to destroy that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.